want to begin my slightly more formal remarks by saying something that I say very often, and it's important to me to say it, because A, it's true, and it's also important because it's frankly at the core of my mandate as Minister of Transportation. You all know this. Over the last 13 years, the province of Ontario has ranked first or second consistently in road safety across North America. It's important for me to remind people of this on a regular basis. I say it in the legislature, I say it when I'm in different parts of the province, to remind people about how much work has gone into accomplishing this outstanding goal, but I also want to remind them that the work is never done. The work is always ongoing. Whether it's introducing legislation like Bill 31, which is known as the Making Ontario Roads Safer Act. It has a longer technical title, but that's an easy one for me as a politician to remember. And that passed second reading, by the way, for those who follow this stuff closely, in the legislature yesterday. It is my first piece of legislation I've had the honor of introducing as Minister of Transportation. It passed unanimously at second reading. It's going off to committee, and that I think is really important. I look at Heidi and her team when I say this. It's important because it means that both opposition parties, notwithstanding the fact that they'd expressed some concerns during debate, decided to stand with us in the legislature and to support this important legislation, which will continue to help make sure that Ontario remains at the forefront, at the cutting edge of road safety. I also know that I couldn't do the work, that we couldn't maintain that standard of being ranked so highly around road and highway safety without having strong partners like those who are in the room today. And I really and truly do value the relationship that I've managed to develop thanks to you as an industry over the last 8 months. Certainly David and Kim and others have heard me say this many, many times. I'm blessed at MTO because we have an extraordinary array of stakeholders and partners across all kinds of different sectors and industries, and they're all very valuable to me. But I think when it comes to decision making and the direction that we're going to take to go forward, what's particularly helpful to me, because from time to time, I think not surprisingly to all of you, we can get a little bit caught up at Queen's Park inside our government in somewhat of an echo chamber. What's really helpful for me is to be able to hear directly, in the most unvarnished way possible, the most honest and straightforward way possible, about how the decisions we're making impact those on the front lines. And I can tell you, and you know this, Ontario's trucking industry never shies away from being very direct. And the results are there. The results are there because we see the progress. We've certainly heard it in the room here today, and I've really enjoyed the opportunity to work so closely with all of you. And this is the kind of work that is very clearly producing strong results. So for example, you standing with us in support, and us standing with you in support for electronic logging devices, and in our call for an effective national ELD mandate. You've seen it in the shift to allow year-round long combination vehicle operations, and in our monitoring to ensure high safety standards. And again, of course, in the new regulations that are going forward in 2015, targeting truck safety inspections. And I've also had the chance to hear from a number of you about what you've had to say with respect to US-Canadian movement of goods. Because I recognize that the crucial importance and the massive benefit that making sure that this is flowing properly has to Ontario's economy. And of course, when we work with both industry partners and our neighbors to the south to harmonize efforts for the industry, we heard a discussion earlier about the prospects for potential harmonization. It does only result in positive benefits for all of us. So of course, today isn't the beginning of this process, this very important process. Just last week, led by MTO, many of you were able to participate in the first official consultation with respect to mandatory entry-level truck driver training. I understand it was a great discussion last week, and again, I just want to repeat because it is important for me to say it. We can't make sure we get this right, which is so important not only to me and the team at MTO, and certainly not only important to you as an industry, but it's important to every single man, woman, and child who relies on Ontario's roads and highways to make sure that we get this right. Today is another example of taking an additional step in the right direction. It's a chance for all of us, but me in particular, to seize this opportunity to listen to you, to learn from you, and to build consensus regarding how to make sure that we get this right for everybody at the table. And if there is one thing I've noticed, and I've actually noticed lots of things today, but if there's one thing in particular I've noticed, it's there's a remarkable level of consensus here today in this room within the industry for making sure that we do progress, that we continue to evolve, and that we actually get this done, we get it right. There is some other good news, and I've said this in the legislature in response to questions from members of the opposition. There's always a game that gets played in politics. This isn't a partisan shot. Different parties do it. I'm sure we would to a certain extent if we were in opposition. Fortunately, we're not. But from time to time, you want to try to cast aspersions on the opposing party and inadvertently on an industry or those who are so proud, as you all are, to serve and to practice in this industry. But there's lots of good news about what's been accomplished over the last number of years. You probably know this, but between 2002 and 2011, the number of fatalities and large truck collisions declined in Ontario by 41%. 41%, but that's only half of the story. So imagine the declining by 41% at a time when there was actually a 23% increase in the number of large trucks registered in the province of Ontario. It shows that thanks in part to some of what's being implemented at MTO by the provincial government, but also because of that relationship that exists and the truly wonderful work that the industry does, that we have made some progress, that there is lots to be proud of. But as I said at the outset, and I'm fond of saying, and I know Heidi appreciates this, the work doesn't end. Just because those numbers do point to significant improvements, we can't rest on our laurels. And MTO has, I think, that legacy, it has that reputation for making sure, as it relates to road user safety, that we don't rest on our laurels. It's why the record is strong, particularly over the last 13 years. So I also want to acknowledge the work that's already been undertaken by so many of you in the industry. For example, as has been discussed a lot today, the work developing the National Occupational Standard. What great news to hear from David earlier today, that the 5th and final draft has been developed. It's a standard that's long overdue, and it will certainly help the industry define the work with respect to what a commercial truck driver does. My hope, too, is that the NOS will help provide us, as a government, strong direction as we mandate both the entry-level truck driver training and the competency-based testing across the province for truck drivers. And I also know, we've certainly heard today, that the insurance industry is eager to see this plan unfold. So of course we will continue to work together to enhance the confidence with respect to driving standards in Ontario, to assure insurance providers that commercial drivers have the training they need to succeed on our roads. And ultimately, working with us at MTO, it is you, people who are on the front lines, who will help us deliver on the entry-level testing and the standards, along, of course, with Heidi and her team. Heidi, that's the 5th time I've mentioned you in my remarks today. I just want to say, all the pressure's on you, okay? And I know you can handle it. So together, we will deliver a robust program to measure competency and administer mandatory training for commercial truck drivers. We'll find a standard that keeps us at the forefront of road and highway safety in North America, but also standards that we can deliver effectively. And this is extremely important to me. It is about setting expectations, the right kind of expectations, and then meeting those expectations. And I know that you in this industry will help our government fulfill the expectations that we've created. And I was delighted to hear in many of the remarks earlier today, the recognition that notwithstanding all that's been accomplished so far, that there remains additional work, additional hard work, I think was the term that's being used by some of our presenters today, that still has to come. You guys don't sugarcoat it when you talk to me about the impact of our decisions on the industry. I won't sugarcoat it back to you. There is a lot of hard work that lies ahead, and there are certainly always challenges with respect to taking on anything new and groundbreaking, and that's what this is. But you have my absolute ironclad commitment that both myself and my team at MTO are eager to continue this work, and we're going to make sure it happens. And again, I want to repeat how grateful I am for all of the time and all of the effort, the resources you've brought to bear, your knowledge, your experience, your dynamic energy that's definitely felt here today with respect to making sure we get it right. And I know that you all understand that the expectation that's being set out there beyond the industry itself, an important thing to note that there is an expectation within the industry, but beyond the industry, to the people who drive across this province, to the families out there, to make sure that we get it right. I know you understand that. And I know you also recognize how important it is for me to hear from those who will participate and help us realize our goal. Because only from getting the direct perspective can I be in a position, whether we're talking about getting a direct perspective from carriers, from instructors, from insurance providers, right across the entire spectrum of the industry, It's the only way that we can accomplish the goal that we need to accomplish. So we will continue to listen. We will continue to consult. We will continue to demonstrate, I think, leadership from MTO's perspective to work with you, because ultimately it's most important that we get it right. The decision